So why does the narcissist wants their target silenced? Because silence is the perfect stage for them to perform. In that period of silence, what can we expect? Nothing surprising. Because evil always defaults to its nature. When you're dealing with narcissists and gang stalkers, you can expect them to do what they always do. Try to control a narrative, especially when their target isn't speaking. Silence becomes their opportunity to force a storyline of defeat. Because people like this only think in terms of competition and blame that in their psychopathy. A competition that you never signed up for. An entire mindset that is built around just by winning or losing and nothing else. So let us pull up some reading here. We all know that I was scapegoated as the karmic in this community. And during the exact time that I was quiet, one reader put out a story titled, "The karmic is infuriated because you outsmarted them." According to her narration, the so-called karmic had no maneuvers left. No moves left. Nothing that they could do to change the outcome. She claimed that the karmic was blocked from someone's life. Finished. Out of options. Shocked by how abruptly things ended. And that the villain she created was someone who supposedly always got their way. Always won. Always dominated. And constantly sought to sabotage. So she went on to say that this dark-spirited person was furious because you were the one with more moves, more intelligence, more options. And she described the karmic as an energy vampire, jealous, envious, raging because they saw this person's potential and lost their power. And that this karmic is now crumbling, devastated, infuriated, blown apart by the fact that someone outsmarted them. Now, whether this reader got the right karmic or not, one thing for sure is that whether you are or you don't, to assume that my silence is a defeat is certainly not a win. We cannot assume that silence is defeat. No matter what situation is. Surrender or is suggestive of someone out of moves. LOL. Because maybe that deafening stillness is the move alone. I don't win or lose. I'm not even playing. I don't sit around watching other people's lives or envying what they have because this is called minding my own life and respecting other people's humans' right to privacy. So do I have a strong personality? Well, naturally. But dominate someone? Never my intention. So how can someone be devastated or upset that someone else is smarter? You see, there will always be someone who will be more beautiful, smarter, sexier, more talented. But why would I be devastated and waste it on things that I cannot change when I can just aspire to be a better version of whatever I want to be for myself? And that is life. You see, you can be beautiful and I can be beautiful too, in my own way. And one thing for sure is that you cannot be smarter by creating illusions and stepping on someone to build yourself up. So let's make this plain. If I was being cast as the villain in this person's story, then it's a lie. Now let's move on to another video she posted titled, "Folks lied to everyone about you because they were jealous." So in that reading, she talks about people who lied on someone's name. Layers upon layers of falsehoods that never made sense. And is finally unraveling. She says that there were people who actually believed the rumors and the fabricated stories being spread about someone. People who were misled and manipulated into having the wrong impression on someone. According to her, some individuals even went to third parties, people who didn't even know someone at all, just to smear someone. She describes ponytails about who someone is, what the person do, what the person didn't do. Lies that are just born out of jealousy. She claims that their perpetrators are envious, threatened, in trying to diminish someone because of their own insecurity. In other words, what this person described in here is gang stalking. Being targeted, defamed, and destroyed by a group of unstable, jealous people. But this is where the contradiction exposes itself. If we take her previous video into account, we have to ask a very simple question. Who is her villain? Because I've heard so many terrible stories about the Queen of Wands and a Queen of Cups who's playing the victim. So that brings us to the real question. Who are the jealous folks she claims that are spreading lies, aka the perpetrators that she's talking about? Then, she released another video today titled, "Your Enemies Are Delusional." So once again, she created an entire villain narrative, claiming that this enemy is supposedly delusional for thinking that they can control someone. And according to her, these enemies don't know who you really are, don't understand what you're capable of, and chooses to believe falsehoods about you. So she said, they imagine that they know you better than you know yourself. Well, yes, I have delusional enemies, but I'm not delusional. And I don't think this way about anyone. I have delusional enemies that made it a purpose to base their contents in triangulating two people. And I suffered from their own personal biases and assumptions about situations that they were never in to begin with. I don't walk around believing I control people or that I know someone's life better than they do. Most of my conclusions towards my enemies are based on objective evidence, their art, as facts that they themselves created, and patterns that are undeniably oozing with truth. Personal experience of questionable encounters and inconsistencies in conversations from traders. You know what make it strange for me is that this creator consistently builds her content around a villain character, describing highly specific personal experiences of this villain towards this victim of hers, as if she has intimate knowledge of their thoughts, motives, emotions, and intentions. So when she says, your enemies are delusional because they think they know you better than you know yourself. If we look at it objectively, the contradiction is obvious that she's the one speaking about this supposed villain as if she knows them better than they know themselves. And she's the one assuming the thoughts, motives, and inner world of a person she cannot possibly know. In other words, the very behavior that she attributes to her imaginary villain is the behavior she herself is displaying. Now let's go to the next reading. It's titled, Are You Up? I Got Hot Tea Friend. This is a reading from Messages from Serena Bonita. Then in that video, there's a message saying she's jealous of you. With a caps lock, big time. And I believe these words is not a coincidence because this person is heavily targeting time. In her latest narrative, she paints her villain as someone desperately trying to turn people, even a masculine's family, against another person. She claims that this villain is projecting everything onto her victim while hiding skeletons in the closet. Even going as far as inventing some degrading story about being caught sucking dick. Then she adds that this villain supposedly wants to steal someone's essence, uses spell work, candle magic, and love spells, and hides behind a facade of being righteous while secretly being dark-spirited. So she portrays this character as the black sheep of the family, judgmental, bullying, married for convenience, pretending to like good boys while liking bad boys, and even throws in random accusations about sexuality. In short, the way she talks about this so-called villain is intentionally degrading. Like she's crafting a caricature meant to discuss her audience. So she repeats the idea that this villain gossips to a masculine's family, trying to block him from moving towards the victim. But here's the thing. I barely even speak to my husband's family, if at all. So yesterday, I made a video about third parties, specifically how some readers twist the dynamic by calling the wife the third party and the mistress the divine feminine. And the themes align perfectly. And what was the example? A third party lying to a masculine's family. And we all know that this is not a coincidence, but an organized crime. So if I'm the villain of this person's stories, this is a very good example of a delusional enemy. If you take a good look at this content, when she says that her villain is projecting and that her villain did everything to portray this victim in a bad light, considering if I was this person's villain, she's actually the one projecting and is actually the one portraying me in a horrible way. So once again, the very evil she talks about is herself. So she probably saw me light a candle, but then created a narrative that I'm doing candle magic. Well, that's typical gang stalking. Then go on with the stories of love spells. And because I do have a love life and I'm judgmental, but imagine all the horrible ways that this person judged me for what I am as a person. These are all slanderous, defamatory accusations. I could actually put this person in jail. So she was saying there's a video of this villain sucking D. Well, in my mind, probably they're having sex. And so what? Everyone who has a sex life does. But the question here is that why do you know of a video and is trying to frame this as a scandal? Of course, she'll create more lies about this. But if there is one out there for me, I don't think I would want to watch that. And this is 100% non-consensual recording. Possession and distribution of sexually explicit content is 100% a criminal act. You see individuals who create such material without consent, as well as those who knowingly hold or circulate it, can face serious legal consequences. These crimes exist in most jurisdictions under different names. So if the recording was done secretly, especially without the person's knowledge, it falls under voyeurism, which is illegal and considered a sexual offense. It is harassment, cyber harassment, and since the footage itself is already illegal, but adding lies, false accusations, or fabricated storylines around it may also constitute more criminal actions, defamation. And anyone who forwards, shares, reposts, or stores the illegal content commits a separate offense, even if they weren't the one who originally filmed it. Just so you know. Possession alone can be criminal in many places, and spreading sexual content without consent is considered a form of sexual exploitation, whether or not money is involved. This is coercion, blackmail, or extortion if the video is used to threaten the victim, demand something, silence them, or destroy their reputation, like what this gremlin is doing here. These crimes leads to arrest, jail, or prison time, heavy fines, protective orders, registration as a sex offender, and civil lawsuits. You see, we don't get shamed for this. We sue for this. If you really understand all three videos, the stories, the personas, the performances, you will start to see that none of it is real. They're just stories. If these people weren't on social media, if you didn't see them branding themselves as prophets for profit, wannabe goddesses, or whatever character they are trying to play, even if you saw her as a gremlin with heavy fake eyelashes, the truth becomes obvious. You see, the only reason I see them this way is because I know how horrible they actually are behind the facade. You strip away the personas in the social media theatrics, and what is left is simply someone who enjoys hating, talking trash, gossiping, whining, bullying. Do you see my point? When we focus on their gossip, we miss the actual facts. And that is what makes the whole thing an illusion. And that the only real evidence we have is her own behavior. That everything she accused of, she projected. And that the villain description she tried to pin on someone else is the very character she revealed in her own content. Evil is predictable. It follows patterns because it cannot create. It can only recycle, distort, and repeat itself. So when we're dealing with groups like this, such as gang stalkers, constantly scheming and plotting, their behavior becomes almost textbook. And their actions run on the same tired scripts: manipulation, projection, deceit, envy, sabotage. And because their intentions are rooted in darkness, you can always anticipate their next move. And you don't have to guess. Because evil reveals itself through consistency. Its own lack of originality exposes it. These people operate on an autopilot, reacting to their own fear, their jealousy, and desperation. So when you're dealing with individuals or groups who chooses malice as their identity, understand this. Their actions will be predictable because darkness repeats itself. And you can always expect such people to return to what they know, which is harm, chaos, and cruelty. But the predictability of evil is also its weakness. Because once you see its pattern, it loses power. And that is exactly why they fear the ones who can see through them.